No rule is absolute, no crime without defense, no pain devoid of pleasure. No fault is guaranteed to cripple an otherwise beautiful piece, nor is it absurd for said fault to enhance it. And no matter of taste is unflinching or impenetrable. I've spoken many times about my distaste for first-person games, and I absolutely adore Mirror's Edge. Wrong song!
God, I love being pretentious. I should write a book. It'll be incomprehensible, but it'll be something. Alright, so yeah, Mirror's Edge. First off, what is it? Well, if you clicked on a video about it, you probably already know what it is. Not much of an excuse anymore. The game is 17 years old. You want to know what was happening in the FPS genre 17 years before this game? Nothing. It's older now than Wolfenstein 3D was when it came out. Not even a joke. But for the sake of those in the back, in case you're a blood relative or trying to dig up some dirt on me, here's a brief summary of what Mirror's Edge is.
Released in 2008, how the heck was it 17 years ago? Mirror's Edge is an FPS, or more accurately an FPP, developed by DICE and published by EA. You play as a woman named Faith, a member of an illegal delivery system called the Runners. You dash across the blinding white towers to bring people there.
Whatever it is, I didn't pay too much attention to the story. If you watched this old video on it was any indication, it wasn't explained in the first place. Here's what I would say, if I didn't have a physical copy of the game. This came in about halfway through writing the script, complete in box, and that includes the manual. And it states that runners are a special breed of courier navigating the fringes of society to transport packages, data, whatever. So it settles. That's canon, no one stinking knows. So now you're up to speed, but what makes this game so great? Well, before we get into that, let's talk about the visual design, because no review of Mirror's Edge is complete without mentioning how pretty it is for like 10 minutes straight. So, start the timer.
Holy moly, this looks gorgeous. The pale white skyscrapers give the city of New Eden a clean atmosphere that still manages to be brutalist and oppressive, and the bright blood-red runner's vision clashes wonderfully with the otherwise unsaturated roofs and immediately catches your eye, serving as a guide that, unlike most other games, is largely unobtrusive and doesn't feel like handholding. And then when you go into these giant buildings, it gets even better. The untarnished paleness of the outside is replicated inside, with the bottom half of each wall painted its own solid color. Sometimes a solid color is used for an entire area, from the floor to the ceiling. This minimalist style is prevalent throughout the whole game, giving it its own style that'll never age a day. Let me remind you that this game is 17 years old, and sure, you could sometimes tell from the character models, but the overall landscape looks like it could have been made yesterday. Compare this to other games from 2008. Sonic Unleashed. Okay, this still looks good. Metal Gear Solid 4. I'm starting to think we should stop chasing graphics. Fallout 3, there we go. You look at this, and then you look at this. These games were released 1 month apart, and one of them looks like it was made for the PS2. In recent times, this game has been considered part of the Frutiger Arrow aesthetic, a source of nostalgia for those of us who grew up with Windows Vista. The aesthetic shows a beautiful utopia where technology and nature coexist in a form of symbiosis. Blue skies, green grass, butterflies, computer monitors forming out of bubbles. It's the kind of thing where you look at it and go, dang, I gotta go drink some rainwater. It's an aesthetic that I don't exactly see in Mirror's Edge with its pasty white buildings and presumably tyrannical government, but I'll tell you one thing, I do want one of those water mice, and I do want to go to Singapore.
Alright, so how long was that? Dang it, I'll never claim to be an art critic. I mean, video games are art, but you know what I mean. If you've watched the other two videos on this channel, or darn near anything on my other channel, you know what I really care about is gameplay, which, as I said at the top of the video, is an FPS, a genre that I historically despise. Why is that? Well, for starters, it's in first person. You can only see what's ahead of you, you gotta turn around to see what's behind you, beside of you. And that's a task that's slow, clunky, and imprecise with the right thumbstick. So just use a mouse.
I'm what some would call a dirty console peasant. Every computer I've ever owned has been a laptop, and until I started college, they were always grossly underpowered. So if I wanted to play anything more intensive than a GameCube game, I had to grip those legs, shove my fingers right into those grooves, and wiggle them. This is somehow the third time I've made an innuendo out of video game controllers. Even when I got my current computer, I still couldn't switch off because every laptop uses a trackpad. Not only is that a pain to use, but you can't use the trackpad and the keyboard at the same time. Even if that weren't the case, I don't want to just sit at a desk and use my laptop for stuff. That's what I use when I'm sweating my butt off trying to finish my physics homework. I don't want to be reminded of that when I'm playing Sonic Adventure 2. So what I've done is I found this keyboard in the garage, and I bought this mouse from a thrift store. The cords are long enough that I can have them plugged into my computer on the desk over there, and still use them in my chair. Set the system up to the TV, and blam, I'm a slob.
I waited until I was done with all the rest of the editing to record anything that involved my face, so there wouldn't be any inconsistencies with my shirt and the way that the bed was done. Then I had to get this chair replaced. Anyway, so I started playing games with keyboard and mouse. That's all well and good, but does that make FPSs fun? No. And the issue is actually the second part of the name. Shooter.
I don't like guns. In video games. In real life, I'm one of those every law is an infringement types. I don't have any firearms myself, but if I had a job and wasn't a bit of a psychopath, I'd definitely get a Colt Single Action Army and some gun safety lessons. But within the realm of the screen, ranged combat doesn't click with me too well in anything with more freedom of movement than a 2D platformer. Either A, the enemies don't have ranged weapons, so you could safely just pass them from a distance with no threat to your own safety, or B, the enemies do have ranged weapons, so you take one step into the line of sight and either it's too easy, or just outright unfair. I always prefer close range combat. And that's where Mirror's Edge really innovates. Combat is disincentivized. Now when I say disincentivized, I don't mean the pretentious, stuck-up, violence is bad kind of way that all the modern games pull.
Killing is distasteful!
Now, rather than pulling some moral garbage, it just designs itself so you want to run past all encounters. Your movement speed is cut down hard when you pick up a firearm, and with the speedrun component being emphasized, you're just gonna want to run. Run like your life depends on it. The authorities will tell you not to run, but you must not heed them. You must run, for you are a runner. Running is your life. Your footsteps are your heartbeat. Your purpose is to feel the wind in your hair. Any second not spent in motion is a second wasted. And that darned contraband isn't gonna deliver itself. The fluidity of control is what this game excels at the most. You play enough, and eventually each segment builds its own rhythm. Jump, roll, slide, turn, jump, climb, jump, swing, punch the door, jump, wall slide, turn around, jump, climb, jump. I screwed it up. And if you're aiming for a qualifying time in the speedrun mode, you don't get to make any mistakes. You gotta play whatever stage you've chosen absolutely perfectly, with not a single second wasted. Because of that, my only good time is on the prologue. But the thing is, the extreme time constraints don't feel limiting. They feel like goals to aspire to. You can still finish the stage no matter how long you take. And with the servers having been shut down 2 years ago, there's not really an incentive to get a good time. You're only trying to get a good time because you're having a good time. Case in point, after getting this run that you're seeing right here, guess what? I ran it again, and I actually got it below 6 minutes with a nearly 15-second deficit. So everything I said about having to do it absolutely perfectly, scratch that. It's pretty tight. Very few games have managed to connect with me so far that I feel the desire to master the mechanics and aim for a high score after I've already finished them. The only things I can think of off the top of my head that have done that are some of the 3D Sonic games, and I think I like those games for much the same reasons I like this one. Fast-paced 3D platformers with an emphasis on momentum and fluidity, where the reward for high performance is speed. What's behind my eyes? What's behind your face? Just understand and see the little go gone, see the little go gone. Yeah, I've got no idea how I put that in the script. Speaking of Sonic, another thing that matters a lot to me when it comes to games, and which the Sonic series historically excels at, is the music. And if there's one thing that I will never forgive the Half-Life series for, it's making ambient soundscapes the standard soundtrack for FPSs. Or maybe that was Quake. I've never played Quake, let me check. It was Quake. And Mirror's Edge falls into the same camp. Yes, there's the stellar main theme still alive, for the love of God. And the tracks that play during encounter with the cops are decently energetic, but other than that, the game might as well be silent. And this is a game that would really have benefited from something like Lesser Key or the softer Devin Townsend songs. Both of those are Tool ripoffs, why didn't I just say Tool? But hey, it's better to be silent than whatever the hell Yards Rising was doing. And speaking of Yards Rising, because apparently this is how I'm doing segues now, I said that game felt generic because everything looked the same. At least I think I probably said that. I wrote the scripts for these first 3 videos in reverse order. Variety is the spice of life, and this game is ranch dressing. Which brings up another thing that Mirror's Edge did very well, set pieces. This is the part where I go over the level design, and yes, set pieces are what matters when it comes to level design. Otherwise, Super Mario World would still be considered one of the all-time greats by people who aren't just straight up senile. Chapter 1, Flight. Looking to check out the New Eden Mall this weekend? Then you need to stop by the Taste of New Eden restaurant for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even just a snack. The Taste of New Eden restaurant. It's a little bit of paradise. That stinking ad's been etched in the back of my brain. Anyway, there's not a whole lot going on here outside of sliding down a building and crashing through a ceiling at the end, but it's the first, or I guess the second level. Gotta have a Bob-on Battlefield before you get a tick-tock clock, you know? Chapter 2, Jackknife. The longest level according to the speedrun section. Doesn't get off to a perfect start with this part in the trench where you're just running in a straight line, praying that none of the blues shoot you down because you can barely see them, but after that you climb into a storm drain, and then you slide down a waterfall, and then you climb up another storm drain, and there's Jackknife. The latter half of the level is you keeping up with him as he jumps around the rooftops. It's a little inconsistent when you fall behind. Sometimes he'll patiently wait for you, other times he'll just keep on going and you lose the mission. Doesn't matter. If you don't suck, he'll be right on his tail the whole time. Chapter 3, Heat. The newest threat to children. Running. Did Robbie Rotten write this? This is the part where the game really starts to pick up. The rooftops get more labyrinthine, with the way forward not always being as obvious as it used to be. Also, this room right here always stuck out to me. Partly because it looks beautiful, partly because I didn't know you could smash windows on my first playthrough and I got stuck here for a while. But then there's the ending. I think I'll let it speak for itself.
Did you just do what I think you did? Damn it, girl, I just spilled my Joe all over the keyboard.
Chapter 4, Rope Burn. You idiot, didn't you see the fine print? This level is special because it's one of only 2 with any sort of a boss fight.
If he sends you, we can both go to hell. No one threatens me.
Well, I say boss fight, but it's really just a quick time event. Still kicked my behind plenty of times, and then you go into the subway control center and things go off the rails. You have to shut off these fans and go through this tunnel before they turn back on. And then you're running across the tracks while the subways are still going, and then the mission control guy chimes in and tells you,
Take the train, take the train.
yes, you jump on to a moving subway train. And you're told to do this by the guy who doused his computer in piping hot coffee when he climbed onto a crane in the last chapter. And not only do you jump onto a train, you're also weaving between 2 different trains while avoiding random signs and pipes above them, and then the last train goes into a tunnel, bumps you off, and you have to get outside before a 3rd train comes and slams into you. I'm not train artistic or anything. I couldn't tell a Hoover from a Dyson from a General Mills, and I don't want miles or anything. I'm not this guy. But when there's action involving a train, be it on top of it or inside it, something lights up in me. Bacano, Demon Slayer, Bullet Train, Mega Man 02, it always gets me giddy. And here's Mirror's Edge, first-person platforming between moving trains. This might be the best moment in the game, but it's got a bit of competition with Chapter 5, New Eden. Doesn't get off to a great start with the opening bit and the cover of Systematic Chaos being fairly obnoxious, but then you've got the big moment, a shopping mall shootout. I feel the same way about shopping malls that I do about trains. I'm not a woman, I'm not jumping at the edge of my seat wanting to go to the local mall, and when we do, I just stay at the record store in there, but they work wonders as level layouts. This game, Mario Kart, I haven't played Dead Rising. Okay, but this is still cool as hell. You almost feel like you're playing as John McClane. That's 2 Christmas movies referenced in a video that's probably gonna come out in September. Nice. Chapter 6, Pirandello Kruger. The script says to include flubs, but I did that perfectly on the first try. While the last 2 levels had the most interesting set pieces, this one excels in pure level design. Nothing that stands out quite as much as the drain, the crane, the train, or the main lobby. I don't know how to make it rhyme. Anyway, it doesn't have anything that really jumps out in the same way, being a simple factory level, but also has no filler whatsoever. You're on it, and you're on it. You jump out of this building, zip line over here, jump to this platform, climb on the roof, navigate around this fence, bust through this door, climb through this hole, take out this guy, zip line over to another building, avoid all these guys, bust through this door, jump on this piece of wood, and now the fun really begins. This segment has always stood out to me for being shockingly difficult to nail, and also for being a very open space. There's a bunch of different ways to approach it, and I don't know if my preferred way is even the right one for how much of the room I just plain ignore. Jump up here, grab this guy's gun, rat-tat-tat-tat, jump up here, go down, enter the door. This next room with the conveyor belts has you platforming on shelves to reach the control panel and open the door. Then you slowly make your way down this really tall room to hit a button that raises the lift. My first playthrough, I was stuck here for like 20 minutes because I didn't realize the lift uncovered a hole in the ground. The final stretch of the level gets even better. Back at level 4, we learned about a character named Rope Burn. He used to be a runner, but he betrayed us and went with the government. You've seen him talking with that one guy who bum rushed you, and he also led you into the mall from level 5. Here you discover that he wasn't the only one. You're going up against an army of Rope Burns. And this room where they first show up looks so cool to me for some reason. Escape them, run through a hallway while they're still chasing you, and then zip right onto a train. That's one hell of a level right there.
And I think we're gonna stop right there for now. We're 2/3 of the way through the game already. That's more than enough to tell that I adore this game. In fact, my love for this game has affected how I play other games. Well, an other game. Sonic Robo Blast 2, a fully 3D Sonic fan game made out of Doom source board and 27 years worth of technical wizardry. I started playing it in first person mode and it's suddenly even more fun and frantic. I enjoy this 3D platformer more in first person than I do in standard view. Was I wrong? Our FPS is actually good? Well, I'll admit that I've been a bit too positive in this review. Don't get me wrong, this game is absolutely amazing, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few nitpicks.
Number 1. Last year on my other channel, I made a video counting down the top 10 games of the Nazis, with the 2008 entry being Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I fully admitted that I only earned that reward because of my nostalgia of the Subspace Emissary cutscenes. How does this game stack up? These are cardboard. Like seriously, I'm pretty sure I've seen amateur Newgrounds Flash animations that look better than this. It honestly reminds me of the 2D animated commercials from Protogens. And I have dated myself all the way back to mid-2010s, good for me. Number 2, the runner's vision mechanic isn't quite as sleek as I was expecting. Especially in the earlier levels, you'll see it slowly fade in rather than already being plastered onto objects like I had expected it to. Number 3, there's a slow-mo feature in this game to assist with platforming. It's not forced onto you, I never used it, but it hurts my soul knowing that there's probably someone out there who has. Number 4, not a mark against the game itself, but it's given me a heavily inflated view of my acrobatic skills, which means it's made me assume that I have any to speak of in the first place. This one's a particular sticky point for me because I tend to argue online about how Taboo Erotica needs to be destroyed, citing its effects on my psyche. The fact this game affected me gives credence to the counter-argument that I have an, at best, tenuous grasp on reality.
Those are, as I've said, minor nitpicks. In fact, the last two aren't even nitpicks, they're just me being elitist and schizophrenic. Beyond those little things, there's still a huge, gaping flaw in this game. See, I've been brainstorming this video since January, before I even finished the game. Back then, my idea for the title wasn't Mirror's Edge and the wonders of first-person platforming. It was Mirror's Edge and learning to love FPSs. I had just gotten off the heels of Portal 2, and last year I had plenty of enjoyment from the first two Metroid Prime games, and to a lesser extent, Metal Hellsinger. I thought some sort of switch inside me got flipped, and I was actually starting to enjoy this genre. I might actually be able to connect with non-Nintendo fans and re-enter gaming society, abandoning my identity as a weeaboo man-child and being rehabilitated as a normal Counter-Strike junkie.
Chapter 7. Combat, dodge, shoot, pew pew, headshot, nutshot, triple kill, double kill, no skill, victory out. Player 1 dead, respawning in 3. Remember all the praise I shouted this game with for not focusing on gunplay? Throw all that out of the window because from now on it's a first-person shooter. Gotta deal with imprecise aiming, guys shooting you from off screen, sitting behind cover for a long time, and getting virtually no feedback from the cops you shoot from a long distance. John Romero, you bastard, you poisoned the industry and you can never be forgiven. Earlier levels had enemies that you were expected to fight, but more often than not, you could still just run past them. And the two sections where you couldn't, there were only 2 or 3 guys. Take this guy's gun, boom boom from a corner. It's a well-oiled machine. Why on earth did I think this was a good idea? Easy to commit to memory, and then execute for speedruns. Not here. Here you got a full-on army trying to take you down. You can't memorize and execute the same way that you can for platforming in small groups. You have to think on your feet and act fast. And when that involves precise aiming, my mind just shuts down. This is compounded by one of the disincentives of combat that I mentioned at the beginning. You're playing as a dainty, fragile Asian woman who can barely lift that scrap of metal off the ground. She swells to a crawl when she grips onto the handles, making her even more vulnerable than she was without the firepower. They had the chance to do something really cool with it, making the gunplay flow seamlessly with the parkour mechanics, but instead they decided to do this infernal garbage.
I've heard the sequel, remake, reboot, whatever it is, Catalyst remedies this glaring mistake by axing the ability to use guns in the first place. I've also heard that it's open world trash. I'll play it if there's a song called Want You Gone.
To give this level a tiny bit of credit, the boss fight at the end is kinda cool. Yes, an actual boss fight, not just a quick time event with a little flair. This is the only real boss in the game, Ropeburn. It starts with you having to sneak up to where he is while he's sniping at you, then you get to him and have to alternate between punching him in the face and punching him in the balls before he gets stunned and turns around. You try to steal his gun, but he's got a solid grip on it, so he runs away and you have to chase him down in an actual Mirror's Edge level before repeating the punch-out shenanigans. And then the level ends, you get a cutscene where they're still chasing each other and he takes his mask off and... He's a woman? Was I fisting her? In fact, she's not just any woman. This is Cell from the tutorial level. She showed you the ropes of being a runner, and now she's a bad guy. Ring out the applause, a heart-rending betrayal from one of your closest contacts. This is the first and last time she'll appear in this video. Chapter 8. Kate. A brief return to form after the travesty that was level 7. Not too dissimilar from the first few levels, except you got hordes of rope burns on your tail. In fact, I'm pretty sure that a lot of this level was copied directly from other levels. Nothing screams late stage, quite like a Cosmic Mario level. Near the end of the level, there's this part where you have to climb a tower. This part has always stuck out to me, and I think it's because this is the last part of the game where you're completely left alone. No cops, no other runners, even your transceiver is off. It's just you, your thoughts, and the tower. The music in the background is this somber atmospheric tune that also plays during the logos on boot up. This whole thing is oddly calming, and my inner thoughts just start pouring out without limit. I am a 20-year-old man who refused to join society for the better part of his youth. This isolation has done irreparable damage to my mind, leading me to develop a searing hatred towards other people, a dependency on hentai and social media, and ambitions that directly contradict my moral and religious stances. I am a rotting husk who uses the internet as a means to vent my frustrations with myself to a world that's sick of hearing them. I desperately need help, but modern therapy doesn't believe that porn addiction is a thing. It would instead attempt to have me extrapolate my autogenophilia from a fetish to a self-destructive lifestyle, which would only make my problems worse. Plus, I wouldn't want my friends and family to worry about me, so all I can do is just sit here, wait for my mind to numb itself to the pain, and in the meantime pretend to be a funny man. Whoop, looks like I'm at the top of the tower now. Shoot the truck. And, sorry about the vent earlier, it's just I've got issues. It shouldn't happen again. So yeah, this level is definitely better than the last one, but also still not quite as good as the first 6. It's just kind of there. And that's okay, not everything needs to be balls to the wall awesome all the time. A brief respite does body good. Anyway, back to the garbage. Chapter 9, The Shard. Everything that level 7 was, but 10 times worse and 10 times harder. In fact, it's so miserable that I didn't even bother writing this part of the script. Figured I'd upload it after recording the footage I needed for it, because otherwise, I'd have to play this level twice. That's just pure hell. Take it away, future me. Alright, Chapter 9, The Shard. I think editing 3 videos at the same time just kind of numbed me to every emotion that isn't just, But honestly, that wasn't nearly as bad as I remembered. It actually started really cool with this valve that you had to twist so you could blow everything up because this door was locked. That was really cool. And then after that, I don't remember a whole lot, but there was an action sequence, which, yeah, okay, it was an action sequence. But it still wasn't that bad. You could still just bypass most of the enemies. Frankly, it was the same way in Chapter 7, The Boat. I just didn't realize it until I started recording. But, yeah. Of course, you still had to wait on the elevator, and odds are if you didn't take out most of them, you were still gonna die. That was pretty obnoxious, but still, it was fine. Then in the elevator, there was this one part where I got stuck for a while because the grappling is just weird. She ended up pushing herself right off the other edge every single time I grabbed onto this thing, and because of that, it took a really long while for me to get through. But when you get past that, you get to go back outside, and it is nighttime, and it is the most beautiful thing in the entire game. Like, man, that is some good stuff. And then you go back inside, and everything goes to hell. The reason why I said this level is 10 times worse than The Boat was because of this ending sequence right here. You have all these guards, and they will come at you. It's a wide open space. You gotta take all of them out, or else odds are you won't be able to destroy all of the servers. And that's another thing. When I first played this game, I didn't know what the servers were. I knew I needed to destroy 4 servers. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were in the white room at the top, and not these giant white boxes. And I got stuck there for like half an hour to a full hour until I finally looked up a walkthrough. I don't like looking up walkthroughs on anything, much less a game where I'm just at the end and I just need to figure out one last thing, and I figured out everything else on my own, no matter how long it took. But then there's this last little bit. So yeah, that sequence right there was the entire reason why I said that it was a terrible level. But the ending was still really cool. You got the helicopter. This guy says you gotta jump, and then the handlebar turns red. That was really cool. I'm running out of things to say. This is why I use scripts. And that's Mirror's Edge, a game that started strong and got even better as it went on, only to come crashing down during the last 3 levels. A classic Zen issue. But is the ending bad enough to condemn the whole game? Absolutely not. Mega Man 2 dragged at the end. Castlevania Symphony of the Night dragged at the end. Metroid Prime dragged at the end. Many of the best games of all time had horrendous home stretches. They were still amazing regardless. This one is no different.
Fans of Sonic Adventure 2 typically only replay the speed stages. Fans of the Smash Bros. Series only use a fraction of the stages and characters with no items. There are plenty of renowned games where the masses only care for a small snippet. Here we have a game where 7 out of 9 levels are thrilling. That's not a snippet, that's basically the whole thing. Mirror's Edge is a beautiful game, and one that everyone should jump into. Alright, what on earth is happening? We've tried to play this song 3 times right now.
It's not on Spotify.
On Spotify, that's ridiculous. Here, this gotta be the game that came with a CD with the song on it.
Or you could sing it.
Are you joking with me? That is a woman's song, and I am very clearly not a woman.
The lyrics are unisex and you own thigh highs.
Alright, but you are not going to like it. Jeez, that amplifier is terrible.
I had a whole thing planned. I was going to put Sleep Token Sucks in Morse code at the very end, but no, the amplifier had to suck, and I looked it up, and maybe it said I cranked up the gain too much, but no, everyone says the Squier Frontman 10G is a terrible amplifier.